Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a really great day and a golden day full of sunshine, because today we're working on Golden from the Kpop Demon Hunters movie. And the music was written by EJ. So that is spelled EJAE. It's not initials. It's a word. And this was made in 2025, and this particular arrangement is through Musicnotes, so they have it in several different keys if you go there, musicnotes.com. And if you don't like this key, I would say put it in D minor. Maybe that would make it easy also. This is not an easy piece. The reason it's not so easy is because of the syncopation. And the syncopation, of course, in history of music started in the ragtime era. So we can thank the ragtime artists for all that syncopation to make the music exciting. Okay, so we have a 12/8 meter. So what that means is you have 4 strong beats, usually, and they're grouped in threes. So that's actually a compound meter, right? Now, if you have 6/4, that is 6 beats, and the quarter note gets the beat, right? Well, that occurs secretly in the middle of this piece. That's what makes it kind of difficult. So right around measures, I'll probably point it out as we go along, but there's a 6/4 at measure 19, and also at measure 23 and 24. So that's how you can handle figuring out that syncopation. Now, as far as the left hand, don't get bogged down in where all the eighth notes go. A lot of times you just want to play, you can just play an octave or make it simple. Just play one note in the left hand, but get your rhythm correct in the right hand. So one thing I've found to make it simple, getting a little feedback, is in some parts you want to leave out some of the eighth notes just to make it easier on yourself for the rhythm. You can put them in, it's always up to you, but just to move it along, I would suggest that. And what else? And the other thing is just write those, where you see quarter notes, write the quarter note right above each of those ties. And that occurs right around measure 17 through 24. So that way, visually, you can kind of get the rhythm. It might be different than the pop song you listen to, but it will help you get the rhythm in your right hand. Okay, so starting off, it sounds like there's a stage scene and there's some music in the distance. So let's go through that. So you have left hand is a C chord. And again, if you wanted to just read the chord symbols, anytime you have pop music, you can always opt out for the left hand and just play the chords in the left hand instead of what's written. Now they've written it pretty nicely with the inversion, so they are all in the same area. So I like what they've done here, so I'm going to use their arrangement. Okay, so we're starting with 2 on A, and left hand is a C chord in second inversion. Okay, so now, again, you can approach this the same way, and you see where that tie is? Think of that as a quarter note. So you're just holding it a tiny bit longer. It's just like taking a breath, right? And wherever the eighth note is, you would play those a little quicker. Not everything is something you want to count, because you always want to get it to the smallest amount to make it simple. You want to simplify as much as you can. So in this case, you could count it. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 12. But you know, counting in threes is more logical. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But my way, I think, is a little simpler because you're just holding that quarter note, right? So I'm going to take this part a little slower so you can follow my fingers at the keys again. And there's the cuckoo clock. So here we go. So now starting here, I add the pedal so it sounds like it's far away. Now it gets louder here. And then right away D, and then D octave. Okay, so now in this next part, it's kind of like 2 6/8 put together, or just think in groups of 3. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's in the left hand. That's where I want to show you that you can leave out that extra eighth note. So I'll show you what I'm talking about in that one measure, measure 9. So it makes it a little less complicated if you just are holding that second group. But sometimes it helps, like later, you could add that eighth note in later. But let's just try it slow so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, there's that one more time, that measure. Now you move to B and G, and left hand's G. Alright, and then that's F sharp. Those 2 ledger lines makes it F sharp. Now here I do something different because the left hand's crashing into the right. So just play the right hand with the left hand and then let go. And that's the melody, that left hand E. So in this case, the extra eighth note helps a little bit, so you could add that in. So again, that part. And then you go down, you hold that through, and your right hand plays C and E. So let me do that little syncopation again. This is measure 14. Together. Okay, so this is probably the most difficult part of the piece. So let's take a look at measure 17. Again, so you get an eighth note before, and this is still in 12/8. So let me play that again right before 17, that pickup note. And then the next part is a 6/4. So you're playing 6 quarter notes, definitely, but your left hand is still going along in 12/8. So here we go. So it's going to be okay, did you catch that? So let's try that again. And okay, next measure is back to 12/8. So you got a group of 3. And then it goes to still into 12/8. Okay, let me do that again. Still in 12/8. Okay, now we're going into 6/4. So this is 6/4. Okay, so that, to me, that's the most complicated part of the whole piece. So once you get your hands together on that little part, starting, it is at 17 until 24, zero in on that with the metronome, start about 120 on the 8th note, and then follow the 8th note, keep going up until you get it perfect each time, and then move it up a notch, up to about 180, and then it'll be in your fingers. Okay, so then the next, sorry about that. Okay, so that is, now we're at measure 25. So you count in groups of 3, those are 3 eighth notes. So you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now that's a little awkward. You might want to leave out that B. I don't think you really need it. Okay, so those are all grouped in 3s. Let's keep going here. Okay, so then we have, starting at where it says NC at 32, that means no chord. That's the abbreviation. And now, to keep it less complicated, I would suggest that you just don't do the, back and forth. Either just play it a dotted quarter note, or just play like they have a quarter and then an eighth. Okay, so let's try it there again at 33. So at 35, let me do that again. Now we're at 41. Okay, and then moving on to measure 47. Here we are, 47. And then it says no chord, and then you count. Now we're in 4/4, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. And then this is a triplet. And then in groups of 3 again. So now we're back to 12/8. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is where I ended it because it is a repeat of the same material. So it's ending on the 5 chord, so it leaves a question mark. So the question is, are you going to work on it? That's the question mark. Okay, so you guys, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments. And this is quite a complex piece, but it's a nice piece. It reminds me of very Broadway-like writing. And, of course, I love the syncopation in it, and it's very uplifting. So I like the song. It is a nice song. Okay, so I hope that helps, and you guys have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.